day long, but I'm actually going to invite two friends on stage who've got the experience with car with me at some point. They know how I'm using it before. So ladies and gents, join me please and welcome on stage our Head of Product Marketing for the Golf lineup, Megan Cassay, and our Brand Ambassador, Jamie Hall. So first and foremost, did you really drive the country all the way to Summit Point? Did you really sleep with it?
That was not movie magic. I did go cross country in the Marcy Belt, and it was fantastic.
And mildly disgusting.
I did literally sleep in the tent on top of it.
And Megan, I mean, you know that you're an R32 enthusiast. You can see your car parked up there. You and I both had our R32s on the track. How fun was that?
There was something phenomenal about having multiple generations of GTI, Golf R, R32, and being out at Summit Point and driving these cars, getting to experience them for the first time. That is just something that will go down in the history books for me personally.
Cool. But we're not just talking about old R32s or countries. So I think let's get the sizzle reel going and let's get the covers off. Ladies and gents, I'll ask you to stay back there. We're going to tell you a little bit about these cars straight after we reveal them. And then, of course, later on in the live lunch, we ask you that once we reveal the cars, you will get an opportunity to come up on stage. So let's reveal them and we'll talk you through the details and then we'll welcome you. All right, let's do it. Alright, so there you have it. I think what we did is we used it for some of the points that are around it. You saw that we are the first thing we will take I think all the plan right now, Megan, is for you to talk to us. Maybe let's start with the GTI. Talk to us a little bit through the Volkswagen GTI.
It's my distinct pleasure to be here and finally reveal these cars in person to you all. Of course, this is the Mark 8 GTI. It's 8th generation of a model that began its life in the late 70s in Germany, came to the States in 1983, and just to go back down what we call memory lane a little bit, the original GTI was kind of an in-house clandestine project of these engineers who had this sport-minded idea of let's take a base Golf, sport up the suspension, the engine, the interior, the exterior, put on nicer wheels, and essentially you have the silver Mark I Rabbit GTI behind most of you, which we proudly call the original hot hatch. Now most of you might remember fondly the original car, right? It had the dimpled golf ball shift knob, it has the sport plaid seats, it has the red accents for the interior and the exterior, items that have carried throughout almost every single generation of GTI. Sporting a 5-speed manual, a whopping 90 horsepower, naturally aspirated, of course, from a 1.8 liter engine, nice little 14-inch alloy wheels. The car was really an all-around fun car to drive that didn't force compromise in any of the areas of practicality, fuel economy, efficiency. But that formula is something that has worked very well for us through the years, of course. The hardware has changed quite a bit, again, even if the formula has not. So at its heart, the Mark 8 GTI is still very much a classic GTI. We've got honeycomb trim, interior and exterior, red accents throughout the vehicle on inside and out, golf ball manual shift knob, of course, and then sport plaid seats, which, as well, they're heated. As far as this GTI, it's really unlike any other that we've seen before. It's a whole new world of driving, technology, and conveniences. It's starting at an MSRP of $29,545 for the S trim with a manual transmission, which we feel is a very reasonable price uptick from its predecessor, considering the fact that you get a great deal of new standard equipment on every single trim level of GTI, power upgrades, and big chassis and handling improvements. Sporting the fourth generation of the EA888 2-liter turbo direct injected motor, 241 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque, mated to a 7-speed DSG, or, of course, a 6-speed manual transmission. Also featuring an all-new vehicle dynamic setting system, which will oversee all electromechanic system of the chassis to deliver the most engaged, the most linear, the most fun GTI ever, even at the limit of its handling. It's also the first GTI in North America to feature optional 19-inch alloy wheels from the factory, which, I don't know about you guys, but the 19-inch wheel is quite a far cry from the 14-inch alloys of the Mark I. So speaking of driving dynamics, putting Jamie on the spot here, since he has had a good amount of track time in the Mark 8, Jamie, tell us about your experience in the Mark 8 GTI.
Genuinely, it is a big step forwards, and I don't say that lightly. The Mark 7 was sensational. I was so fortunate to drive it on 5 different continents, in Japan, South America, including crossing the Andes, the Bolivian salt flats in the Mark 7. So I love that car. If we were magically able to drive blindfolded, I know you'd be able to tell the difference between the Mark 7 and the Mark 8. It is that much of a jump. But absolutely do not try that at home.
Thanks, Jamie. So while the chassis, the driving dynamics, handling, and power output have all increased, the interior is also more technologically advanced than ever as well. So starting at the heart of the vehicle for the driver, you've got the new standard Volkswagen Digital Cockpit Pro, which features multiple different modes of display, an available heads-up display, 30-color ambient lighting on the interior. Also available are 8 to 10-inch MIB3 infotainment displays, a whole new frontier of haptic and touch feedback controls on the interior as well. And then, of course, bringing back that GTI heritage on the interior, you have the racier touches, right? Like the perforated leather steering wheel that is heatable, leather trimmed, of course, and front seats with integrated head restraints, which we feel is a pretty cool sporty touch as well. Other standard features include LED headlights and taillights, LED fog lights in an X-shaped pattern, and the IQ Drive suite of driver assistance features. Now available, we have an all-new Harman Kardon premium audio system, a sunroof, our DCC adaptive damping system, ventilated front seats, and even heated rear seats. We feel that this is the best GTI ever. We do have our own biases, but we feel that you will find that as well when you have a chance to experience the car, drive the car. More standard equipment than ever on a GTI, our most powerful GTI ever, with a small uptick in pricing. So we think you'll love it, but we also think that you'll love the all-new Golf R. So I'm going to flip it back over to Hein.
Thank you,
on
James.
that note, thank you all.
Awesome. All right, so I think before we go to the new Golf R, let's maybe take it back in time a little bit again and go back to, I think it was in 2003, when Volkswagen R really had this bright idea of making a very unique hot hatch. And what they ended up doing was cramming a 3.2-liter VR6 engine, knitted to a closely ratioed 6-speed manual transmission. They added a full-motion all-wheel drive system, bolstered sport seats, 18-inch multi-spoke wheels, and a really cool signature exhaust note. And I'm talking, of course, of no other than the R32. Now, we were very fortunate in the US to get roughly 5,000 of those. They arrived here in 2004, and they almost became instant classics. And I think if you scrounge the used market, their values continued to rise. 240 horsepower, full motion, absolutely a groundbreaking Golf. And after the R32, there were 2 more generations, I believe in the Mark 5 and the Mark 6, mated to later on even a 4-cylinder engine, but still continuing with that very secret sauce of all-wheel drive traction, more grip, more horsepower, and more performance. And I'm very proud to present, I think, the Golf 8, Mark 8R, and we really honestly truly feel that this is really the generation where the Mark 8R separates itself even more from a GTI in terms of performance and in terms of drivability. So the Mark 8R is powered also by that 4-cylinder engine, producing now 315 horsepower and 290 pound-foot of torque for the DSG transmission model, which, as you can see, is quite a significant difference over the GTI. We've started the MSRP for the manual transmission version at $43,645, and the buyers who buy this car will ultimately have access to significant improvements in performance and the chassis. This is the most powerful Golf ever produced, and this car versus the outgoing Mark 7 is completely loaded with standard features. Now, many enthusiasts will look at a car and really judge it on how fast it is around the track, because that gives you a good idea of how good the car really is. We're very proud to report that the Golf R was taken around the Nürburgring Nordschleife and beat the Generation 7 car by a whopping 19 seconds. Now, if you've been around there and you've looked at those lap times, 19 seconds is not something to smirk at. So how was it able to do this? Well, it still has that very successful all-wheel drive system, but the new 4Motion system also incorporates a torque vectoring mode and also a drift mode for track use. And in addition to that, you will notice larger brakes that are cross-drilled in the front. We have a radically revised DCC adaptive dampening system, and really this Golf R is one of the best all-rounded machines out there. I know you got to drive it. I know we went around the track a couple times with Mr. Faust. Talk to us a little bit about this torque vectoring mode and how it works and how you felt the difference.
So the standard features are a huge step forwards, but that torque vectoring for me is the biggest game changer. It has a live display on the dashboard, but you can physically feel it happening. There is 50% of power available to the rear, 50 to the front, but the game changer is 100% of rear power can go to one individual rear wheel. So what does that mean in the real world on an open road? The analogy that I use best comes from Mr. Faust. If you imagine a canoe paddling you, that's what that back wheel is doing. It's pushing you out of the corner into where you're going, and you can feel that happening. So it is phenomenal. Normally at that pace, you're not able to see or look at your dashboard. You're looking at where you're going, but if you are, you can see just how much the handling is step forwards with that. The additional driving modes do include the off-road use only drift mode as well, which we won't go into too much, but I hope you get to experience it and have a blast doing it. The photos of that on the track are not photoshopped in the slightest. This car will, you'll have a lot of fun.
You can see Jamie's bound by lawyers, so I do apologize for that. That's awesome. And then I think the other exciting news, Megan announced it on the GTI, which we retain the stick shift, and we are very proud that the Golf R will come in manual transmission as well. So that's very cool. If you could just move us on one, thank you. So I think on the interior, the Golf R pretty much is very similar to the GTI. You'll find those same very digitally focused and highly technological upgrades on the interior. Of course, we go with blue accents on the R versus the GTI, which of course is littered with red. And I think in terms of the overall package of the car, there's definitely no shortcuts when it comes to features, convenience, performance, and of course, most importantly, that whole fun to drive factor. Now, unlike the GTI, we have a very simple offer structure for the R. We have one trim available in either DSG or manual. It is roughly $3,200 more expensive than the outgoing model, but it is loaded with a lot more standard content, and I'll just briefly touch on those. So, upgraded leather seating surfaces, a sunroof, now standard in the car, heated and ventilated front seats, a Harman Kardon premium audio system, 3-zone Climatronic, a heads-up display, a very nice 10-inch infotainment display, and last but not least, as you can see on the side over here, beautiful 19-inch wheels with summer tires, which are also standard on the car. So ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, the new Mark 8 GTI, the new Mark 8 R. Megan, Jamie, I'd like to thank you for joining me on stage.
Thank you.
And at this stage, I'd like to welcome you guys up. Feel free to ask us any questions, take any photos, and there's still some more food and snacks for you as you desire. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can't believe I pulled the cover off of the U.S. market. Go far. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Thank you, Sean. The whole team is really, really great. Here, let me just take a moment. Really, thank you to the team for the invitation. Just being able to pull the cover off is amazing. The event is genuinely fun.
Yeah, right.
Actually, Kimberly Gardner
Yes.
is going to be speaking at my conference at the New York Auto Show. She just
Yeah, we do. So I use products.
Brand marketing. So we're working kind of very close with each other as we're making up the products. So we're working with the
house drives.
Yeah, that's
And I think it was a good bit of video view for a lot of years. But yeah, these are
Ambient lights. Can we change the lights? Let's see if we change the lights. Oh. We can change the lights. Oh my God, it just changed the lights in the inside of the car and on the door. Stop it. Do you guys see that?
Giving you an extra, there you go, just slide it forwards and you're done. So if you want to higher for your groceries, you're fine, or you can drop it down to more trunk space or do it or post it up. So now it's in the low position.